Joining us now is NBC's Dasha Burns, who covers the Trump campaign. Maya Rupert is former senior advisor for the Elizabeth Warren presidential campaign. Good to have both of you here. So, Dasha, what do we know about what Trump would actually do on abortion if elected?
Well, Chris, not a whole lot, in large part because he's been kind of all over the place on this issue. He continues to tout that he helped overturn Roe versus Wade, that he's proud of that. At the same time, he's been posting things on social media like that he's going to be great for women and their reproductive rights. He claims he wants to make IVF free for all Americans, but has provided very few details since he made that announcement on how he would actually do that. He eventually recently said that he would not sign an abortion ban into law at the federal level after waffling on the issue for many, many months. And then you had his wife, Melania Trump, come out with that black and white video saying that she's in support of reproductive rights. And here's what she said in a recent interview about that.
Yes, he knew my position and my beliefs since the day we met. I believe in individual freedom. He let me be my own person, and he respects that, and I respect that as I let him be his own person. He has different beliefs, and he will do what he believes.
And Chris, he keeps trying to moderate, but then you have things like what you just played from his running mate, J.D. Vance. The Republican Party is not necessarily singing from the same songbook on this issue, and the Harris campaign is having a field day with this issue and some of the past things that both former President Trump have said and other Republicans, and things like Project 2025, whether it be in ads or in recent interviews, like Harris hammering him on that on a podcast, Call Her Daddy, this week.
Dasha, thank you for that. So, Maya, how should the Harris campaign take advantage of what seems to be conflicting views by the Trump campaign over abortion?
I think they should keep doing exactly what they're doing, which is to point out these are more than just conflicting views. He is lying. What is happening right now is that Donald Trump is trying to sanitize what his actual position on abortion access. He has been bragging about overturning Roe versus Wade. The reason that we are in the position that we are in around IVF, around people's access to the health care that they need, because it is health care, is because of him. It is his direct actions. And calling it, letting him sort of get away with this, it's conflicting or it's mixed messaging, I think we actually are trading away what is maybe the most important point here, which is that he is making it actually very clear where he stands on these things. And I think he has got to be held to account. When he says, I won't sign a national abortion ban into law, that is actually missing the point. The next presidential administration is going to deal again with the issue of medication abortion. It went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't reach the merits. And they essentially said, come back when you have somebody withstanding. We're going to see another one of those cases. And unless Donald Trump says, I will direct my Department of Justice to defend the FDA and defend access to medication abortion, which is the #1 way people actually access abortion, he is saying that he will support a nationwide ban, and he needs to be held accountable for that. So until he can say that unequivocally without waffling, he is actually giving the clearest indication possible of exactly what he's planning on doing around access to abortion care.
We keep talking, Maya, about the election being, decided on the margins. Georgia is one of those places, and we just learned what happened there, that the abortion, 6-week abortion ban, essentially, is back in place. So anybody who has an appointment after 5 o'clock today, this afternoon, it no longer is operational, and it has to go through, according to our legal correspondent. Lisa says that, you just have to wait till all of those appeals have gone through.
Right.
Is that the kind of thing, bringing that back in a very real way onto the laps of voters, essentially, you think could have an impact?
Absolutely. I think that what's going on in Georgia, what's going on across the country, but I think there's a really clear and devastating illustration that's happening in Georgia right now, that there is a 6-week ban in place that effectively, for a lot of people, 6 weeks is not there are people who do not know that they are pregnant within 6 weeks. This is essentially a complete ban on abortion in Georgia, and it will be in place until these appeals go through. Those are real women, real health issues. We have seen already out of Georgia just devastating news of people. We're losing people because of this ban, and that is directly because of Donald Trump. And if he is bragging about getting rid of Roe versus Wade, he is bragging about the conditions that women in Georgia are going to be met with when they are trying to access the health care that they need.